Every day, I receive really boring applications from extraordinarily talented individuals for jobs that we have at my new company. The same boring headline, the same horrible text. And, the saying goes, good talent is hard to find, but the market's pretty competitive. So if you want any kind of job, maybe that would work out. But if you really want to break through, you have to do something to stand out. And so today, I thought I'd share with you a few moments of my career and my life that are potentially seemingly unconnected or not so important, but maybe in some wind up being something interesting and of value to all of you. But first, I'd like to do an experiment, and the team here doesn't even know about it, so can you put the lights up, and could you all please stand up? While you're standing up, I'm assuming that you all have mobile phones. Could you please take them out of your pocket and show them to me? Now, could you please unlock your mobile phones? And now, would you please turn around and hand your unlocked phone to the person behind you? And I'm not kidding. Go on. Just think of all the new Tinder connections that you're going to have. Okay, we could do this all day, but now if you'd kindly give them back to the original owner and take your seats, I'll explain why we've just done this. So about 15 to 20 years ago, I started becoming relatively obsessed with mobile. Because have you ever felt that way with a remote control to your television set? Have you ever felt that way holding a magazine or a newspaper or a radio? What other device, what other thing have we come across in the recent past that has given us such a feeling of personal value that you literally don't want to give it to your friends or neighbors? I feel that way about my two children. I feel that way about my mobile phone, and not much else. So, I wasn't one of the earliest adopters of mobile technology, but since the late 90s, I've had a bunch of memorable experiences that I somehow have been able to relate to the phones that I owned at the time. And so, as I said, I'd like to tell you a couple of stories about how it's happened. And in keeping with tradition, I actually have to step off of the red dot. This is my first phone. It's a Motorola StarTAC. Actually, that's a pink phone from my daughter, because I think they traded my Motorola StarTAC for the pink phone that you see on the board. But in '97, that was my first phone. I worked at an agency called Organic Online at that time. It was one of the first 4 agencies in the United States. It was the late '90s. Parties were plenty. Funding was good. Yahoo was getting a start. DoubleClick was around the corner. They're the company that's now advertising for Google, for example. They acquired them years ago. And there were a slew of parties. And so I thought, hey, wouldn't it be fun to make a mailing list out of all the parties? But the only way to get on the mailing list was that you had to send me a party invitation to get on the mailing list. I call it the iBoy list, and within about 2 months, I had 3,500 people on the email list in New York, and my friends and I and my wife would be able to pick from the parties. Now, it's all well and good. Maybe you think I'm telling you a story about parties, but I'm not. It was at this moment that I really discovered what a network really means. And the power of that network really was astounding. It opened doors. It got me free drinks. It brought us to places that we never really thought we could go, and that notion of the importance of a network has stuck with me all these years. And so as a takeaway for you, I'd say build it. Don't worry, not just your Tinder network, not just your Instagram fan base, but the networks that are valuable to you both on and offline, because over the years, they will be invaluable to you. In 1999, I had a BlackBerry, one of many that I broke. I break a lot of phones. I break as many mobile phones as Casey Neistat breaks phones and cameras, basically. But anyway, yes. I was at iWon.com. iWon was a startup funded with $240 million of venture capital. It was a perfect bubble company in the late 90s. And I had big expectations. I was the first employee at that company, and in the end, because of bubble and other stuff, it didn't really work out as planned. I was personally heartbroken. It didn't work out for me at all. And at the time, I thought it was a miserable failure. But a friend of mine told me at the time, he said, you will understand over the course of the coming years that the experience that you're having right now and the level change that you're going through will be invaluable to you. And so actually, looking back somehow, what feels like defeat can often be a victory. And I know we talk about fail culture and all that stuff, but find an example like that and figure out where is the important pieces that you can take with you. Carry it with you like a badge of honor instead of a piece of shame, and it'll serve you well. It'll work. I flew to Vienna for the first time from New York City in 2001. I had with me a Nokia T39. It was the first world phone. This one still works. I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do with it. I mean, you can make calls, I guess, but it's really hard to even make text messages and stuff. But I had this phone. I bought it because it was one of the first world phones where you could actually call across the Atlantic with it. And I landed in Vienna, came to the Tuchlauben in the first district, and stepped out of the cab and promptly called my wife and said, "Man, I hope this interview with Red Bull goes well because I really want to move here." I love this city. I think in German you would say, "Ich bin ein leidenschaftlicher Wahlwiener." That's as good as my German gets. But the point here is really, I know people try to pull you from place to place and from city to city and country to country, but location matters. It really does. It matters to feel good in your skin when you're walking around town. It matters to have a connection with the place that you're living. And so when you have these options that come through, where you're debating where to be, where to spend your time, take that into consideration because not all of it's going to be behind a computer or in front of a lab or in another room doing whatever it is that you choose to do. It's a decision that we've made proactively across the years and has proved pretty invaluable to us. In 2004, I was working at Red Bull, and I got this phone, which is a Sony P800. I loved this phone. This phone doesn't work anymore. It's a shame. This is from 2003, I think they came out with it. It looks a lot like an iPhone, actually, right? It's like the first kind of candy bar phone. It was full color. Why they, I break phones, I break remotes. Why they chose to get rid of this thing and go back to the other phones, I have no idea. But it helps me tell a story. I worked with Didi Mateschitz and Sandra Diaz, who's a 4-time vert champion in skateboarding. I worked with Shane McConkey doing some ski projects, and it was absolutely amazing. And we had one project which was a nascent social media experiment. Back in the day, in 2004, it looked a lot like Facebook. Profile pages mixed with content, all designed to be networked and social. We had an alpha phase, we had a really good beta phase, we were ready to push the button and go live, and then the upper management said no. I'm like, what? It was really hard. And it took a while to kind of get over it. This was one of those things where I was like, find the victory inside of the defeat. I was like, no, man, I really, really want to do this. But the only takeaway I could find of it, and I found this over the course of years because it was a hard moment to kind of go through. And I kind of wrote it down. It says, some things, no matter how much you believe in, no matter how much you want them, won't happen. And somehow knowing that that's going to happen and knowing that's true helps. That not everything you set out to do is going to work. Not everything you set out to do is going to go exactly the way that you want it to be. In 2007, if I was taller, I'd pick up my BlackBerry, but I can't. I have like 6 broken BlackBerries that match that one. I started getting stalked by a guy named Willem van der Horst. when I was working in London at Iris Worldwide. It's an agency that was nascent in those times, now makes Super Bowl ads in the United States. And we were growing the business. And sometime my blog started getting lots of comments from this guy, and I was on Twitter, and I started getting lots of answers on Twitter from this guy who I've never met before, Willem van der Horst. I'm like, who's Willem? And turns out after 2 or 3 months of engaging with me, he said from the States he'd like to move to London and get a job. And would I hire him? Do I have any open positions? Could we work together? And it took me aback. I wasn't expecting that to happen, and I hired him. We hired Willem without a telephone interview, without a video interview, without meeting him in person. And he, to date, is one of the smartest guys I know, one of the most creative souls on the planet, and an all-around good guy. But the truth is that if he hadn't had the courage to break out of his shell and do something different, do something authentic and original, he never would have caught our attention. And think about that when you're presenting your thesis, or when you're looking for that perfect opportunity, or the meeting that you're in that has to go well. What do you have to do to really not be the person that has the same kind of stuff or experience as you, but they can do something different with it? I had a Nexus once, and I went swimming. So this is in 2013. I had this Nexus 4, this one. It doesn't work, obviously, because it was in my pocket at the time when I was filming with my GoPro. That was the first day of my vacation. It was a long-awaited vacation. I was really looking forward to it, and I thought I'd have to be connected with the office and kind of keep track, and I wanted to be social and post things and share things and everything like that. And on the first day, the first pool, the first jump, my phone went dead. It was really bad. And it's a quick one, but it's a valuable lesson for all of us addicts. It's a really valuable lesson. It's okay when it's off. I went a week without internet connection. I went a week without social sharing. I went an entire week without being online. And at the end of the day, it was one of the greatest holidays I've ever had. I try to do that in my work life as well, to find these moments where you can turn it off and shut down, to let your creativity flow, and to let other ideas pop in rather than ideas that are being propagated by other people. So every once in a while, turn it off, and it'll be okay. That is a wonderful picture of TEDx in 2015, where Vlad Gosman invited me to speak. And I had a Nexus 5 in 2015. It's this one here. I broke it. It's cracked, whatever. I was working at KURIER. I'd applied to the Berlin School, and the Berlin School of Creative Leadership was an interesting program where I applied and kind of thought, hey, what happens if I say what I feel and not what other people are expecting me to feel about the media business that I was in? And I applied for this MBA program and luckily got in. And I think the only reason why I received the scholarship and why I got in is that I wrote what I was thinking and not what I thought other people were expecting me to say. And that works. It works a lot. It works. Sometimes it can get you into a little trouble, but a lot of the time it will get you places where you don't expect to be, like on stage with Vlad and the crew. So in 2015, I had a Nexus 6. It's represented by this frame of my Nexus 6 since. No, it was a Samsung, actually. It was a Samsung S7, sorry. It was a Samsung S7. They took it back when I broke it because it was under guarantee, and that was the end of that phone. They gave me a new one as a result. But during that time, I quit my job and founded a new business called NIMEH Partners. It was an agency that we've created. It's basically a new adventure every day, something that kind of doesn't happen on a regular basis. We had applied for some funding from Google at the time. We received notification that we had received a little bit of funding when I was at the Impact Hub in the 7th District in Vienna. It was a pretty good day. And the only reason why I decided, it was okay to quit a job It was okay to apply for some funding. It was okay to start my own business. It was okay to do these things. Is that my friends and myself, that I believed in it. I believed that these things could happen because no one else is going to push you to do these things. You can have support networks from around you, but if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have the underlying feeling that it's going to be okay, then you'll never be able to take the leap that you need to do. And that brings me to today, the 2018 with a Samsung, hopefully a not broken Samsung S8. It's in a case. It's the first phone I've ever put in a case, hoping maybe it changes my luck with my phones and I have to stop building these little boards. But it brings me today with you here today, standing here, relatively nervous, wondering what's going to happen, how this is all going to go. And it's being in the moment, there's something to that, of feeling what's happening right now, of not necessarily worrying about what's coming the next day, of looking for the meaning in today versus wondering how things will work out tomorrow. Because today is all you have. Right? Tomorrow, yesterday, yeah, okay, but it's somehow about today. And it's been a pleasure being with you today. And I thought, so I'd have a memento from this little occasion, something to put on our board. We could take a little selfie. Anyway, thank you for your time, and thank you for having me here today.